Reference after reference confirms indeed that the sons of King Dawid were sent to Spain. As the following reference reads, it reads, the Spanish Jews are the true descendants from the tribe of Judah and the royal house of Dawid, and were settled in Spain from the time of the captivity of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar. It is important to note that these Jews not only were the blood descendants of King Dawid, these Israelites also lived in the holy city of Jerusalem. In other words, they literally lived in the holiest city in the world. Their address was Jerusalem. The following reference reads, and it reads, the rabbinic dialect was principally formed in the Middle Ages among the Spanish Jews, who were chiefly descended from the inhabitants of Jerusalem. To talk about King Dawid, we at least need to know what he looked like. Along with his queen, who ruled by his side with the rod of iron. What was their sign? So that you can recognize them today. The true rulers of Jerusalem and the warriors of the Most High Yah, his battle axe and weapons of war. What was their profile? So that you can recognize it today. I'll tell you what, let's settle this once and for all. Let's take a look at the profile of the sons of King Dawid. Make way for the king. And now let's review the profile of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. We'll do this by reviewing the description of color in references older than the 1900s. And we'll also take a look at the hair texture of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, along with cranial analysis, the study of the skull. And we'll also review descriptions of the lips of the Jews. And finally, we'll take a look at DNA, using DNA and the Bible. When we combine all these attributes of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, we will be left with one and only one conclusion. The true description of the sons of King David. Reference reads, and it reads, thus the black color is found not only in individuals as the black Jews of Portugal. And the next reference reads, and it reads, the Jews of Portugal are very dark. And the next reference reads, the brown Jews of Portugal and Spain. This reference reads, swarthy in Portugal and in Spain.
Swarthy means black, brown, tan, brown looking, so-called black man.
And the next reference reads, and it reads, when we look around us in this great metropolis, and behold, amid the chosen people, the Hebrew nation, the descendants of Abraham, every variety of complexion, from the fair-haired, rosy, and ruddy-faced Englishman to the crisp, frizzled-haired, and dark and dusky countenance of the swarthy Negro. Now note that both the Jew and the Negro were referred to as swarthy. And now let's take a closer look at the hair texture of the Jews. For this, let's review the Lachish relief in the British Museum showing the Jews' hair from 701 BC.
So let's continue down the line. We've got more slaves that are leaving the city. Now somebody tell me the difference between this guy and this guy. Whose side do you think this guy's on? The Assyrians, yeah, the conquerors, the Assyrians. And whose side do you think this guy's on? The slave, yeah, the people from Israel are Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The slave, yeah, the people from Israel are Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The slave, yeah, the people from Israel are Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology.
And next, let's review the skulls of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. The skulls of present-day Negroes are called dolichocephalic. And ironically, the skulls of Spanish and Portuguese Jews are also dolichocephalic. As the following reference reads, and it reads, Spanish and Portuguese Jews are dolichocephalic. Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same skulls. Another shared trait between the Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews involves the lips. Both Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same lips. As the following reference reads, and it reads, in form and feature, they are short with dark hair and eyes, a swarthy complexion, full lips, and a characteristic nose. Sorry to break the news to you, but the truth is the truth. Oftentimes when people hear the facts, they are horrified. When they realize that they have treated the children of Israel most wickedly. Others, upon hearing the truth, will simply go into denial. However, it doesn't change the facts. There's an additional powerful piece of evidence which proves the identity of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, and it involves DNA. Today we can use DNA to compare one person to another, to see if they are related. However, this is not the DNA analysis we can use to find the true identity of the Jews today. This type of DNA test assumes that the people in Jerusalem today are the real Jews. However, we cannot make that assumption. And that's because the scripture warns us that someone will steal Judah's land and steal their identity. Revelations chapter 2, verse 9 reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. With that in mind, we cannot assume a person is a Jew just because they say they are. We need to prove it. And to do that, we need to use the Bible with DNA to find the truth. For example, the Bible tells us the 12 tribes of Israel shared a single forefather called Yaakov, or Jacob, renamed Israel. The Bible also tells us that the children of Israel had 4 emas, or 4 mothers: Zilpah, Leah, Rachel, and Bilhah. In other words, the 12 tribes of Israel was made up of 1 father and 4 mothers. With that in mind, we can use DNA to see if the Negro has 1 forefather and 4 mothers. Now, DNA does indeed reveal that the Negro does share a single DNA forefather called E1B1A by geneticists. DNA also reveals that the so-called Negro shares 4 DNA mothers, referred to as L3, L2, L1, and L0 as well. Here we see the Negro's DNA matches the Bible perfectly. The Ashkenazi Jews, on the other hand, do not share a single forefather, nor do they share 4 DNA mothers. This further proves that the Negro are the true Jews. And yes, in references older than the 1900s, Jews are called Negroes. In short, when reviewing references older than the 1900s regarding the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, we find that these Jews not only looked like Negroes, had hair like Negroes, skulls like Negroes, lips like Negroes, and DNA like Negroes. In conclusion, they are 100% Negroes. We know what the sons of King Dawid look like. Let's review what we've learned so far. We learned that King Dawid was a man after Yah's own heart. And we learned that when the sons of King Dawid obeyed the Most High Yah, Israel was blessed. And when they disobeyed, Israel was cursed. We learned that the Messiah prophesied of the eventual scattering of the people of Jerusalem to all nations around the world.
Again, we don't go by that Messiah stuff. The whole belief in the Messiah is pagan. It actually comes from Babylon and stuff like that. Plain and simple. We believe in the Creator only. The Creator's the Spirit. We're not going to fall by hijacks. The prophets told us, the real prophets told us these things. And, of course, as you know, all things are wrong. Let's get back to this. Can't let y'all fall for the hijack.
And we also learned that this scattering included sending the sons of King Dawid to Spain. Both Babylon and Rome sent the sons of King Dawid to Spain. Ironically, the expulsion of these people of Jerusalem occurred on the same day, the 9th of Ab. We then see the descendants of the same people later expelled from Spain on the 9th of Ab. In other words, the 9th of Ab is a day of judgment and expulsion for the people of Jerusalem. And now, let's see what happened to the sons of King Dawid who were sent to Spain. Whether from fancy or pride, it was supposed that the Spanish, or more correctly, the Sephardic Jews, were the posterity of the noblest tribe, and included among them descendants in a direct line from King Dawid. Hence, the Jews looked upon them as a kind of Jewish nobility. And now these exalted ones had been visited by the severest affliction, exile, compulsory baptism, death in every hideous form, by despair, hunger, pestilence, fire, shipwreck, all torments united had reduced their hundreds of thousands to barely the 10th part of that number. The remnant wandered about like specters, hunted from one country to another, and princes among Jews, they were compelled to knock as beggars at the doors of their brethren. Prophecy Yahusha spoke would pursue and run down the sons of King Dawid until all that was spoken would be fulfilled. There was no escaping the destruction and the scattering that was foretold. There was a debt these Jews had to pay. On the day of Passover, during a time when the blood of the Lamb was supposed to be on the doorposts, our forefathers were busy putting the blood of Hamashiach, the Messiah, on their own heads and upon the heads of their sons. The book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 24, reads, When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water, washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See you to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children. Jews from Jerusalem who lived in Spain were persecuted mercilessly, no matter if they accepted Christianity or not. Even when they embraced Christianity, they were slaughtered. As the following reference reads, it reads, whereupon they dragged him by the hair from the church, killed him, and burnt his corpse. While one monk was inveighing from the pulpit, 2 other Dominicans sallied forth with crucifixes in their hands, exclaiming, heresy, heresy, and offering 100 days of indulgence to every Christian who should kill a Jew or anyone who conformed to Judaism. They soon collected a mob, which was increased by a number of Dutch and Danish sailors who had landed from their vessels then lying in the Tagus. They slew and mangled their victims, casting many while yet living into the fires. The Negroes and the vilest rabble had kindled or burned at the church doors, to which they kept constantly adding fuel. Notice the Spanish and Portuguese Jews were called Negroes, and it was at the doors of the church that they stacked the bodies of Negroes, one on top of another. Some were still alive, and they set them on fire. They burned the sons of Jerusalem and the sons of King David. This is just one of many persecutions which befell the sons of David. However, these heathens would further the affliction, and this would eventually lead to their downfall. The book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15, reads, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped further the affliction. If you're wondering who would dare persecute the sons of King David, well, we need look no further than Israel's greatest enemy of all times. The people in the Bible destined to be destroyed by Hamashiach himself, Esau. Esau, along with Gog and Magog, persecuted the descendants of King David. And to find Esau today, look for people who have a perpetual hatred for the Most High Yah and his people. Look for a people who have a habit of killing the Most High Yah's chosen people over and over again. It's a people who would choke an innocent man to death just for the joy of it. It's a people who would shoot a young man of King David over a can of iced tea and a bag of Skittles. Confused? Well, if you don't know who the Most High Yah's people are, then you won't be able to find Israel's greatest enemy in the Bible today. Here's a hint. During the times of old, they had red hair. track the sons of King Dawid as they made their way into Africa, there are a few things you need to know. You need to know that the city of Seville, Spain, was originally called Ishbilia. Notice the city has the name of Yah at the end of the name. This city with the Most High Yah's name in it had the sons of King Dawid in it. Now remember, the city of Dawid in Jerusalem was the place that the Most High Yah chose to put his name. It is in this place that we see persecution break out against the sons of King Dawid. For example, in Seville, Spain, the city previously called Ishbilia, the hometown of King Dawid's descendants, we see the Spanish Inquisition start in Seville. And it reads, "It's tempting to trace some of the fervor of Holy Week back to the fanaticism of the Spanish Inquisition, which was founded in Seville in 1481. The Holy Office was set up with Rome's approval to resolve the problem of Jews who had been baptized Catholics, but who continued secretly to practice their own faith." Now, remember, when the sons of King Dawid were brought to Spain, they were first brought to the city of Seville. As the following reference reads, it reads, "In the 13th century, between a philosopher named Thomas and King Alonso, whence we may learn, if we can believe it, that a king of Spain, who had assisted Nebuchadnezzar in reducing Jerusalem, brought an enormous population into Spain, all from either the family of Dawid or at least from the tribe of Judah, and that the royal family resided first in Seville, then in Granada, adding that the exiles afterwards had their numbers greatly increased by fugitives from the desolation of the Second Temple." And so the Brews were brought to Seville. The Spanish Inquisition was started in Seville. The headquarters of the Spanish Inquisition was located in Seville. The first people to be burned and put to death at church by the Spanish Inquisition on Sunday was also in Seville. Not only that, after the Pope authorized Portugal to start the transatlantic slave trade, Spain issued contracts to govern the slave trade from Seville, the hometown of King Dawid's sons. As the following reference reads, it reads, "What made the contract very much sought after was the ever-increasing demand for slaves in the Spanish Indies. Most of the slaves imported into Mexico and Central America during the 16th and early 17th centuries were from the Upper Guinea coast. It was this which was responsible for the extensive development of the Spanish practice of granting registers or individual licenses to ships engaged in the slave trade. These licenses issued in Seville. In short, Seville was ground zero to the transatlantic slave trade and the Inquisition. The Brews in Seville and other places in Spain and Portugal were continuously persecuted. King Dawid's sons were given choices: to renounce the laws, which included the Talmud, and accept Christianity, leave the country, face torture, enslavement, and possibly death. Many of the sons of King Dawid chose to leave their valuable lands and wealth rather than to accept Roman Christianity. Some would rather kill themselves and their children instead of becoming a Roman Christian. Those who did become Christians were later persecuted, tortured, killed by the Inquisition. In other words, they didn't have a choice. There was a prophecy these sons of Jerusalem had to fulfill. And with that said, many of the sons of King Dawid were sent to Africa. When the sons of King Dawid fled into Africa, in many cases they were persecuted by the Moors. However, there were some places in Africa where the sons of King Dawid could live in peace. It was a precarious existence. At any time, their friend could become foe. Now, before we move on, let's refresh our memory on what these Portuguese and Spanish brews look like. And the following reference reads, "And for every man of Anglo-Saxon descent you saw upon the street, you saw 2 nigger black Portuguese." Not only were they nigger black, they also dressed in black. The Jews of Spain and Portugal were the original men in black. As the following reference reads, "The Almohad ruler Abu Yosef Yaqub is said to have introduced at the end of his reign an innovation with regard to the shukla, cloak-like garment of the Jews, because they were dressing like Muslims, and even like the most noble of them, in a manner which made them indistinguishable from the servants of Allah. Therefore, Jews were henceforth required to dress in the fashion of mourning among Muslims, dark blue or black, and the size of the sleeves they could wear was limited, only long enough to reach the feet. And they were required to wear black cloaks and black caps.